Floodland. A post-apocalyptic survival game. Although, yes, it's often I've seen it compared to things like Frostpunk, and I've never played Frostpunk, so I can't say how similar it is, but from what I've seen of Pravis and Rumi Down Under playing Frostpunk, I can say there is an important difference. That being, it's in a way less about survival but rebuilding. Now, it is a story-driven game, so I'm not going to show very much in the later game. I'm going to show you a little bit here and there. I've not got to the end of the story, which is probably good in a way, because otherwise I might accidentally put in spoilers in this review. So I'm going to try and keep the end game footage to a very, well, end-ish, later game footage to a very low degree. So, here is how you start. You pick a clan. And each of these clans has worldviews. We'll get more onto that later. And traits. And, well, then you select your difficulty. Now, one thing I do like about this game, and I do wish that other games would do a bit more, is you can adjust the difficulty. Now yes, you can click each button and it will move all the sliders, but you can essentially customize how difficult your game will be. Now, so let's jump in and see what the early game's a bit like. Starting up a new game here. And see. Get this sort of loading screen going. Yeah, I'm going to skip that cutscene because I don't want to spoil the story. And as you can see, we've got this zoom camera, your camera controls, some time management because you can pause, speed up, and various ways. And here they are. Now, I've only got the Good Neighbour clan here, but let's get started. Now, don't worry. As you'll see, each of these elements are built up first. So have a quick look. Now, each of the clans will have a different thing they don't like, and I'll get onto that later. But first thing we've got to do, make sure that there's some food, you know. They talked about after bread is secured, but bread's a lot further on in this game. At the moment we're doing, I think, berries. Yeah. So let's start out with berries. After berries are secured, and I've also set a little explorer thing because you're going to have to start exploring the map. yeah, this is as I say, first thing we need to do. And yeah, in case you're wondering, each of the clans at this stage of the game, their main difference is probably in rhetoric. How they phrase the same kind of thing. That's all. So, let's get some food. Yeah. Now, it should also be borne in mind, you don't have a massive amount of people. Yeah, you can get to the maximum of your tasks. And so you'll spend a bit of time gathering, building, and getting things going. At the moment, we're in daytime. This is the work day. You do stuff like going to work, gathering, building, and all that. This is when the tasks of the day get done. So let's go look for some ruins to see where some more people are, because let's be honest, one of the things that makes this game kind of slow is finding new people. Okay. So, yep. Let's do the searching. Because at the start you only have 5 people who've got to get everything done. And so, from there, you've got to work out what you do. You've got to set your priorities, and you've got to gather resources. And people. Because there's only a limit to how much stuff can get done on each day. Because literally, there's only so many hours in the day. And now, everyone's taking time off. Down tools, it's the evening time. So people will basically finish the stuff they're on and then just head back to their camp, their tents, as we gather 1 or 2 things. And it's actually quite a relaxing time of the game. You know, you're just building in a slightly less bleak world than Frostpunk, I gather. And now it is the night time. People, they're gonna go have themselves a nice good old kip. That's a Britishism for sleeping if you didn't know already. But let's just quickly. So. Okay, can we invite them to join? Yeah, so. And this is. Early on, this is what you'll be spending most of your day doing. So, let's jump out. And jump into a little bit later on. Sorry about the loading screens. And so, this is what you can get after about a month or so. Oh, I think at this point I'm going to turn down the music so I can, just so I can explain this. So, here we've got our settlement going. We've got the tents for the people to live in, some fishing, and generally survival needs and resource gathering. Rubbish. Yes, the game, at least here in the UK, uses the British term rubbish rather than, say, garbage or trash. Don't know why, but hey, fair enough. It's their game, they can do whatever they want. They can do that. It's up to them. But the point is, we've also got some more advanced buildings, the foraging hut. Oh, that little button's the night shift. I haven't found need for it, but I am playing on low difficulties, so maybe if you're playing on high difficulty, this will be more your thing. Something you have to do. Now, these are academic buildings, as it were, the study where you learn things using old world relics to try and get access to new technologies. Here, for example. And, well, the game, it kind of has a bit of a thing whereby it teases the line between relaxing and tedious. Now, yeah, I get the mechanical system for researching, and in fact it's quite a useful one in a way. Now, personally, I think that they could probably improve this by adding just a little bit more. Say, individuals take old world stuff and have a chance of learning a new technology from it, getting themselves hurt, both or neither. You know, that can spice up and perhaps move along the research a bit, because it can get a bit tedious as you're just waiting to get it done. And so, yeah. I'd say in this part of the game, it's kind of relaxing and tedious at this point. And now I'm going to cut away a bit, because once you get other clans, then some of the political stuff comes out. So I'll just dive into theory for a bit and see you then. Alright everyone, now we just got a little bit of theory in terms of where political identity comes from. But it is important, so it's apologies for that, but bear with me, okay? Thanks. So, our first question is, from whence shall a people arise? Now don't worry, this is not going to be a full nomos. And I'm sure if President Sunday wishes to do a nomos on the video game Floodland, he's more than welcome from me. There's no way I could make this game a full nomos. I'm not a political scientist, barely even a historian or a comedian. But what I can say is what I see. And what I see in Floodland is we get people who've survived a disaster. It's massive and calamitaic, and, well, enough to, as it were, create a sort of tabula rasa, or wiping the slate clean. And we've got to get the people from this state of having survived the disaster to get them to forming a cohesive society. Well, you might be thinking, now, how does this happen in real life? I mean, there is that big question with our community. Perhaps we take for advantage the old idea of Westphalian sovereignty, or some variation of it. You know, that everyone lives in these little discrete nation-states. It's where all citizens are equal before the law, and equal in importance among each other. And aye, that is a comfy image, perhaps. The state just holding back, adjudicating on matters and holding the citizen together. We know that this is perhaps more a hope than a reality, or even an expectation. Fitting an individual into a society is very complicated. And it does take a lot of work, especially with all different kinds of individuals, which is part of the reason people form political communities within their nation states, or, in the case of Floodland, the community that you're building. Oh, maybe the premise of Floodland is different. After all, who says we have to be a nation state? The sort of liberal... Who says we have to be a liberal state with citizens all equal before the law? There was a time where such was not the case. There was an aristocratic class who ruled, and most people were subjects of that class, and the state embodied by some kind of king who'd rule through, in the less sophisticated versions that you see earlier on, through the ability to be the one who can protect you from the barbarians just across the border. And in later feudal times, being given some kind of divine mandate, be it through the chain of being, divine right of kings, the mandate of heaven, these kind of things. And quite a lot of modern dictators often try and emulate this thing, but with that sort of Westphalian, or if some prefer, Weberian state, and the secularized version of this sort of system. Conversely, of course, we can just take out the nation state. As opposed to the taking out the equality before the law. Or, as does, anarchism's version of this would be to say, actually no, we don't have to be a nation state with a monocentric form of power distribution, or, if you prefer, authority distribution. We can instead organise as autonomous groups, or even autonomous individuals, or even autonomous individuals within autonomous groups, and form our communities based on mutual aid networks. Floodland, however, doesn't do either of these. As we can see, we have a monocentric power structure with this lore committee, which you start to unlock, especially once you've got multiple clans in your community. I personally think it's a little bit early for us to start having to worry about all of this, especially as you can see from the populations that I have on screen. You've got 29. You've got about, no more than, as we see at the top here, about 39 people, 39 free idle, but definitely no more than about 45 people in our settlement across all that we govern. And so I'd wonder whether we need to form this thing, but then we're going to go into the political communities that often form in such monocentric authority structures. So what keeps them in this thing? Perhaps, maybe the material circumstance. The workers of the world uniting You've probably heard that one a few times. The idea that everyone who has to work the means of production under capitalism has a common interest regardless of where they came from. Now, I'm not saying this has to be a left-wing perspective. After all, there's another version of this, quite popular in populist right-wing circles, the idea of your local community, your local town, your local somewhere being mutually opposed to the anywhere class of international bourgeoisie with their professional middle class jobs that can basically be anywhere from Sydney, Shanghai, Soho, what have you, no difference. So, but there are other things that political communities form around. Ideology. Now, I'm grossly oversimplifying this, and this chart is by no means representative of all ideologies out there, but it's just a useful illustrative prop because there could be ideas of ethics. Essentially, what you believe is a good society. And your group, regardless of its background, comes together to form that common vision. And yes, it doesn't have to be left or right wing, partly why I didn't show on those things. These kind of communities do exist across the various political spectras, because the whole point is they're unified by a common ethic of how the economy and society should operate, and will perhaps move towards a future where this is the case. Then, of course, we have another kind of political community, ethnological in nature, as it were, that you have various traditions handed down through the generations. Now, we see this cultural chart here. And yes, language, religion, common historical experiences, these things can be part of your ethnological community. And that regardless of your views on the economy and society, your community is based on these characteristics, these shared customs, these shared traditions, this shared language, this shared religion, these shared values. And yeah, now these don't have to be nationally. These can be very small, very big. And, well, again, I mean, as this chart shows, there's self-expression, secular, rational, traditional, survival. Point is, this isn't meant to be a political spectrum, but this is where a lot of these communities come from. Now, that's the question I've got to ask for Floodland. Where are these communities coming from? I mean, yeah, it's probably blindingly obvious. Good neighbours come from a suburb that happened to have been cut off during the tsunami. The Oak Hill survivors were in a prepper shelter. The fire brigade were in a fire department. And Burkett 3 were on an oil rig. However, you don't see that in the game. When you're playing them, they are finding new land. So it's not really the material circumstance of needing to survive on this structure. And I'll go into more detail when we're back in the game to show why I find this very confusing. But suffice to say here, each clan has things they don't like. But I found that I had two clans in my community, Good Neighbour and Oak Hill Survivors, and, well, neither of them were getting along. And both of them were unhappy. In spite of the fact that they didn't have any of the things they don't like. I mean, sure, there were a few decisions here and there, but they were just coming up with, oh, we just hate each other, and I just don't know why. Now, that said, these are values. They perhaps don't find common accord with one another. But, I mean, how that was happening, you know, the practical day-to-day of living in this scenario perhaps would make these broader philosophical ideas less important, although, to be fair, as I say, this could be a feature, in the same way that these don't seem to be long-held traditions, since the disaster didn't happen very long ago in the story, since it seems like virtually everyone who's alive remembers the flood and the time before the flood. You often hear references to people saying how the world we grew up in and this world are very different, which makes me wonder exactly what it was that is being passed down and handed down to the people. And where is the, like, culture of the old world? I mean, yeah, I know they call themselves old world, but where are the nations of the old world? This isn't a long ago. It doesn't feel like it's long ago enough for some. Now, maybe for storytelling reasons, they need the tabula rasa. I understand that, but, you know, we are a random group of survivors, and maybe that's the point. And it's talking about how happenstantial nations are, or how happenstantial ethnology groups are. And thing is, you guys might totally enjoy all this. But, because I'm just trying to say what I see. And ideology, like, I mean, what are they arguing about? Weird. I mean, but anyway, I'm going to jump back into the game and hopefully show you guys why it just didn't gel with me. Okay. So, now we're later on. We've got more clans. We're getting towards bread. And we've unlocked the law committee that we saw earlier. And now we've got our people groups. And unfortunately, this is where I could see things going well. I think my main problem with this game is it tries to be 2 games at once, if that makes any kind of sense. Because it seems to be trying to tell the story of these clans and these different conflicting ways of life. And yeah, we get what each clans are feeling and their anger and so we can see their feelings. You know, we've managed to get them to a point where they're a bit less dissatisfied, but, you know, they don't have any of the things they don't like. And they're currently developing at different things. But trying to manage their cohesive society, them forming a cohesive society and the values of this world that they've arrived into, as it were. That, I think, would probably work well as its own game, and build a game around that. Because this game, where, as you can see, I'm working towards turning this power plant back on to rebuild civilization with, you know, this progress of people learning how to survive and thrive and grow, that's a good story, and the game can tell that story very well. But having to, like, go round and meet the satisfaction of these clans and deal with their politics, that's also something that could be a very good game. Yeah, I don't know why these shacks still have that building thing. They seem to be upgraded. Maybe that's just a visual bug. Fair enough. But the clan politics could be a good game. You know, working out what kind of values we want this new world to be, and having sort of tabula rasa to the previous world order. And then we've got this rebuild through the power plant. But it feels kind of at odds, because I've got to manage the clans who are pretty angry with each other for reasons I cannot honestly understand. And I've got this technology system trying to rebuild the world with this with this power plant tech. Fine. So it just feels like it's trying to be a few things at once, and it just tired me out. Could be that this isn't my genre. That's fine too. But hey, I just want to let you guys know what it is. Let's put the music back on. Well, I guess that's Floodland. Hopefully this gives you a good enough idea of whether you'll enjoy it. Is it a good game? That's up to you. I can't answer such a question. But either way, whether it's the game for you or not the game for you, it was lovely having you here.